We had a disastrous terror attack yesterday in Turkey. Huffington Post reports here. 3 suicide bombers attacked Istanbul Ataturk Airport late Tuesday evening, killing at least 36 people. Now, that number has slowly but surely ticked up over time. At first it was 10, then it was 28. Last time I saw it was 36. It may be above that now. It appears that ISIS was behind the attack. At first, people said they were unsure if it was the PKK, militant armed Kurdish group, but it appears clear that, the fingerprints on it and the way the attack went down, suicide bombers, that's much, much more likely to be ISIS. So they continue here. Close to 150 people were also wounded in the attacks. Police shot at the attackers outside the security gate of the airport's international terminal, a senior Turkish official told the World Post. The attackers did not make it through the security gate before detonating their explosives. So that's actually amazing because basically what they're describing here is the security was able to keep them at bay to a certain extent, and they got them at the gates. So, and there are, individual stories of heroism coming out about the response from the security people and the police. And remember here, this is an important fact that's overlooked. They say they were going to the international terminal. So the goal was, some are saying, and again, there's evidence to point in this direction, they wanted specifically to target tourists. So we have some video here. I'm going to warn everybody in advance. This is a little gruesome. This is one of the bombs that went off. Let's take a look. That's scary. That shakes me to my core when you see how powerful the explosion is. You see that people notice that at the gate there's a disturbance and there's some shooting going on because security and the police realize that, these guys are going to do an attack. So they start shooting, everybody books it in the other direction, and then you get the explosion. Again, it's actually amazing that there aren't even more casualties because they got them at the gate. I guess if they were inside, they could have done even more damage. But obviously, this is an absolute disastrous attack. The president, Tayyip Erdogan, released a statement after this, and he said the following: "Terrorism strikes with no regard for faith and values, nor do terrorists distinguish between their victims. We urge the world, especially Western countries, to take a firm stand against terrorism. Make no mistake, for terrorist organizations, there is no difference between Istanbul and London, Ankara and Berlin, Izmir and Chicago, or Antalya and Rome. Unless all government and the entire mankind join forces in the fight against terrorism, much worse things than what we fear to imagine today will come true. The Ataturk Airport attack should serve as a turning point in the fight against terrorism around the world, and especially in Western countries." All right, so at face value, you read that and you go, what? It's just a statement released by a president of a country who just got attacked. Everything seems in working order here. Everything seems perfectly normal and expected in his response. There's one gigantic problem, though. As we've discussed recently on the show, and as we've discussed in detail based on numerous reports, it's Erdogan's government who has been supplying and working with jihadists in Syria. This is not something that's discussed often in the United States, particularly because Erdogan and Turkey in general, they are a U.S. ally. So, kind of like with Saudi Arabia, overlook what they do a little bit. Don't talk about that all that much because we have a business relationship with them. They're partners with us. So they get kind of a pass on the negative things that they do. And in Syria, of course, you have the rebel groups that are so vehemently anti-Assad that it's basically at the point where it's anything but Assad. So, okay, topple the government, and then what? Then you have a power vacuum. Who's going to fill that power vacuum? Well, now the strongest rebel groups fighting in the region are al-Nusra, which is Al-Qaeda in Syria, and ISIS. Now, the FSA, at one point, a more moderate rebel faction, had some strength, had some numbers. We're no longer at that point. Now we know for sure that the rebels are extremists and jihadists and Islamists. Erdogan has been aiding them. There's a big story that broke about a month ago about how the Turkish government has been sending supplies to them and weapons to them, and there's evidence of this happening at the Turkish border. And then guess what, Tayyip? When push comes to shove, are they really with you? You know, are they really somebody that he's such a narcissist and a buffoon, he thinks he can control them. Hey, look, if I'm their buddy and I give them weapons and I give them support, well, then they're only going to focus their ire against Assad and the Shias in Syria, which is what we all agree with that, right? Right? But no, you're talking about a terrorist group here. You're talking about jihadists. So what are they going to do? In their blind Islamic fundamentalist fervor, yes, they're going to turn their weapons on you. Of course they are. Because they want nobody and nothing but their own particular strain and version of Islamic fundamentalist thought to be implemented. Now, again, they were trying to get to Taurus and trying to do it in the international terminal, but they ended up, I believe, mostly killing Turks. But see, at the end of the day, they don't care either way, because if you don't agree with them exactly with their interpretation of their religion in the most fundamentalist, ultra-conservative way, well, then you're a fucking enemy. You're an enemy. You are an enemy. So you give them weapons, you give them support, you build them up, because, hey, it's politically convenient. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and we're against Assad, so let's build them up. And then look at what happens. They turn on you instantly. In the same way that when Ronald Reagan gave weapons and support to the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, and they fought the big bad godless Soviet Union, the communists, and then what happened? Later on, the Mujahideen broke up and they became the Taliban and they became Al-Qaeda, and they used the weapons that the U.S. gave them against the United States. Erdogan's getting a little taste of that now, too. Build these people up. There are allies in Syria. There are friends. Whoops! Look at that. Turned it on our people. Don't get in bed with the devil. As a general rule, people fall behind their right-wingers when there's some sort of an attack, because the right-wingers are the strong man, the macho man who come out and say, I will protect you. So that may be what happens in this case with Erdogan, where they say, oh, we're with him because, hey, we just got attacked and he's going to protect us. He's going to lash out and be violent. But that would make the problem worse. That would make the problem worse. Because, as I've already demonstrated for you guys, he's in bed with these people. You build them up, you support them because you think they're going to be on your team. They're not on your team. And then you turn around to the rest of the world and, I'm so shocked. This terrorism is so bad. Anyway, keep sending those weapons to jihadists in Syria. Oh, it's so bad, it's so terrible. Please support me because I will be a bulwark against this, except when I'm for it, but mostly against it. So come to my side. No. We need to be crystal clear. We need to have somebody in there who is not going to support them and aid them. And we need leadership that's going to actually represent the people, the good people of Turkey, the moderate, secular people of Turkey, and is going to be clear about who the enemies are and not just going to come out and give speeches against it when it's convenient. So my heart bleeds for all the people in Turkey, the good people in Turkey who went through this here. This is one of the busiest airports in the world. So this is a terrorist attack that is, ISIS is trying to send a message here. Also, I should note, in Lebanon, there's been at least 5 different attacks in the past week. So Lebanon is feeling it as well. And people can, theorize, hey, well, what this means is since ISIS is losing ground in Iraq and Syria, well, they're turning to other places to go attack to try to feign strength. That's the argument some people are making. I'm not sure if I believe that, but it's clear who their enemies are. All of us. If you're Shia, you're the enemy. If you're a moderate Sunni, you're the enemy. If you're a Christian or atheist or Western or whatever, you're the enemy. So we need to be clear about who we're against. And the United States should move away from our partnership with Saudi Arabia because they spread this violent Wahhabi Salafi ideology. And Turkey should move away from supporting these insane fundamentalist rebels in Syria because that also contributes to the problem.